All right, let's have our guest in, Jim Toman, joining us. He knows a little bit something about taking the wrong job, right, Coach?
How's it going? You guys doing all right?
We're doing great, Jim, doing great. And I said at the beginning of the show tonight, this is very interesting, and of course we're glad to have you and someone with your experience to talk about things like this. But, you know, it used to be you would watch from afar. Baseball was almost removed from the carousel and the way that the money so greatly affected football jobs and basketball jobs and the top-tier jobs and just the pressure that went along with those. I think those days are gone, Coach. Now it's come to your sport, and you kind of have a front-row seat to that.
Yeah, it's been interesting the last couple of years with the portal and you know, one-time transfer rule is, you know, that's a thing of the past now, and kids are just leaving, and the NIL money, they're just taking the best offers they can get. So there's not a whole lot of loyalty involved in that process right now. That being said, we just had a great World Series, and I think it was either first or second in the history of the College World Series in viewership. So it's still a great game. They had great games out there in Omaha. I wish I would have been there in person. It would have been a great venue to go see in person. But got to give a shout-out to Tennessee winning the national title. It was a great World Series. Tennessee ended up with 60 wins, 60-13. They won the regular season. They won the tournament in the SEC, and then they won the national title. So, great year. Coach Vitello should be National Coach of the Year, and if there's any publications that don't have him as national, then it's rigged like a lot of other things. But so it was just it was interesting. As you know, 4 ACC teams and 4 SEC teams in the College World Series. That shows the strength of these big-time Power 5 conferences. It's just incredible the talent that these schools have now. Now, the top 9 in the D1 baseball poll that came out last week were either all ACC or SEC teams. Number 1 was Tennessee. 2 was Texas A&M because they lost in the title with Tennessee. 3 was Kentucky. D1 baseball ranked Florida State 4th, UNC 5th. Then, NC State snuck in there at 6th, UVA 7. Florida was 8th, and Clemson came 9th in the country, even though they just didn't quite make it to Omaha. But you're talking about all ACC or SEC teams in the final poll, so a great year, especially for the SEC as normal, and the ACC was really good as well. So, yeah, baseball, even though with this NIL and the transfers and the portal, it seems kind of out of hand, like it's the wild, wild west, and people are just spending money left and right now. I don't think that's a good thing. However, the product on the field is still really good. The players are still really good. The coaches are really good. It's an arms race for facilities and money, and there's just beautiful stadiums all over the country right now. Talking about South Carolina, because I got some info on them. They have roughly, obviously they got a new coaching staff, then they got a Hall of Fame coach in Coach Maneri. So the South Carolina fans should be really excited for sure. And in talking to some of my insiders over there, because I coached there for, I guess, 11 years, they have roughly like 30 new guys coming in. So you're talking about a lot of new faces in the fall. It should be really fun to get out there and watch them in the fall. Now, the draft is in 2 weeks, so that's going to affect maybe anywhere from 5, 6, 7, even 8 guys, current players and recruits coming in. So they have to really recruit them all over again. There's 20 rounds in the draft, and it's in 2 weeks. But we got so many new players coming in. Some of them are going to get drafted, and then them kids will have to make a decision whether they're going to South Carolina or not in the fall. 8 summer pickups for the Gamecocks already in the portal. I think most of them have been mentioned on here. Jace Woda was a JUCO bat out of Kansas City, first baseman. Caden Gaskin, I think, is going to be a really good hitter. He was the Panhandle Conference Player of the Year from Northwest Florida State. That may be the best JUCO conference in the country. I'd like to go down there to Florida and get them JUCO Bandits. So that was a big pickup for them. Charlie Meglio had 9 home runs at Campbell as a freshman. He's in third baseman. Dalton Mayshore, St. Mary's, hit 320, 13 home runs. He's an outfielder coming in. They picked up some left-handed pitchers, one from Miami named Ashton Crowther. They picked up Jarvis Evans at UGA. He started 18 games in his career at Georgia. So he's highly touted if Georgia gave him the ball in that many starts. And then Wyatt Evans was really good as a freshman at Tennessee. Last year he's hurt a little bit, 6'6" lefty. And then we got the outfielder coming home from originally from Lexington, was at Clemson, Nathan Hall. And he didn't have a great year at Clemson this year. He kind of was the odd man out and didn't get to play. But he's up in the Cape Cod League just hammering balls. So he's having a great summer, and the Cape may be the best summer league in the country. So look for Nathan Hall to do some damage in the fall. Talking about Clemson, while we're talking baseball and how many recruits these guys are having, they picked up the defensive player of the year in the WAC, a guy named Josh Pano, shortstop. He'll be a graduate student, and he'll be a fun guy to watch. I was watching some video on him last week, and he can really pick it and make diving plays. He's going to be an interesting guy to watch. Now, just like South Carolina's worried about 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 players, I think Clemson is worried about 3 to 4, 5, maybe 6. You never know who's going to get drafted. But both squads have to watch the draft very closely, and it's in 2 weeks. But Clemson has 14 new recruits coming in and 5 portal guys, so that's roughly 19, maybe almost 20 guys coming in. So both teams, the 2 top teams in the state, have a lot of new players coming in, so they're just reloading. And I believe tomorrow, July 2nd, Matt, is the last day that these kids, I say kids, some of them are 22 and 23 years old, to enter the portal. So that'll close down. Now, that doesn't mean kids can't transfer. They can figure a way to get around that, and I think if you're a graduate student, there's a few exceptions to that. But for the most part, it's going to shut down, and then I think there's over 5,000-6,000 players in the portal right now. So it's just, who's going to give enough money to get the best players. That's what they're doing right now. I know Clemson has a kid out of Pennsylvania that is a really good third baseman named Harlan. They got to worry about him in the draft. Another tidbit with Clemson is they have like 24 or 25 players playing this summer. And for a program to get that many guys to go out and play this summer, you have the right type of players. They want to go out. They want to get better. They want to get stronger. And the guys that go out and play in the summer get that experience, and they come back better usually. And I think they have like 6 or 7, maybe 7 players from Clemson are up in the Cape Cod League, which is a really big number for the Cape because that's an elite summer thing. So a lot of good players from Clemson up there in the Cape. I talked about the draft, Matt. It's the first round will be on ESPN. It's Sunday, July 14th. It'll be 5 o'clock Eastern time. It'll go for 3 days, but there's only 20 rounds now. There used to be, well, at one point it was unlimited. Then it went down to 80. Then it went down to 40. Now it's down to 20 rounds. So there'll be 615 players selected. The Cleveland Guardians have the first pick. They have a little lottery, and the Guardians actually won it. That's the first time they'll get to pick the first. My sleeper, I know there's 4 or 5 big-time hitters that they say are going to go early. But the guy that I think is the first rounder, and he'll be the first one to the big leagues, you might have to write this down. Now, Matt Hagen-Smith from Arkansas, that lefty, is my favorite. Now, he's projected to go 5th overall in the draft, but if I was a scouting director or a general manager, or I was making the picks, it'd be hard for me to turn that guy down. I mean, he's a lefty that throws up to 100, sort of like Paul Skeens at LSU was throwing 100, and now he's in the big leagues dominating for the Pirates. I think this Hagen Smith had very similar numbers to the Pirates guy Skeens was at LSU. So you might want to back check me in about 3-4 months. You know, I'm thinking Hagen Smith may be in the big leagues this year. That's how good I think he is.
Yep, this is just a bit outside with Jim Toman. Sorry, Jim, didn't mean to cut you off there, Coach. I was just
that's good.
Got to promote you, but I wanted to hear that. That is fascinating. Of course, you're an old pitching coach, so hey, you're going to be biased toward the arms anyway. But you just mentioned.
Well, you know what? I love hitters too, and there's great hitters out there. I mean, look at Charlie Condon at Georgia is going to get picked high. You got the big 6'6" guy, Caglianone or whatever his name is from Florida.
Yep.
He pitches and hits. And then you got the guy from Oregon State as a hitter. There's a guy from West Virginia, Weatherholt. Them guys are supposed to be picked before Hagen Smith, but I would take the dang lefty. That's who I would take. But we'll see what happens. And then there's a high school kid, probably going to be the first one taken. He's out of Mississippi. What was his name? Connor. Yeah, he's probably, I'd say, maybe the first high school guy that'll get picked. Big kid from Mississippi. But anyway, it was interesting. Texas hired Jim Schlossnagle, and the guy asked Jim 30 minutes after they lost the national title game, asked him a tough question, and I don't think Ted Schloss answered it the right way. But, I mean, 30 minutes after the game, you know what I'm talking about. That was a tough question to answer. But, yeah, my take on it is if he's helping his family out, they're going to give him a ton of money, and he knew the AD really well at Texas, then why not go? Now, whether they handled it all right, I think it was probably a done deal probably 3 or 4 weeks before the World Series. And that's, you know, they just wanted to make sure they were getting their guy. They didn't want to lose him, so they probably contacted him early. But anyway, the College World Series, a great year. You know, I don't have all the portal guys yet from Coastal. I'm sure they're in the midst of recruiting, and College of Charleston is regrouping. I thought they should have been in the regionals this year. Coach Holbrook did a great job there. A lot of new coaches in the other schools. Winthrop has a new coach. In the D2 ranks, Francis Marion has one of my former players, Jeff Jefferson, just got the job there. And so a lot of changes. The Citadel brought in a Clemson guy over there. So a lot of new coaches, a lot of new faces, but fired up. It was a great year. Obviously, Clemson, they were about an inning away from going to College World Series. They made it the farthest of the team. So shout out to Coach Backett and my ex-assistant Nick Schnabel over there at Clemson. They're good dudes, and they're getting after it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in Omaha next year.
Yep, you might be right, Coach, and that's just a bit outside with Jim Toman. Really good stuff, and yeah, Coach, we'll talk to you again next week, and we'll have more draft to talk about, and we'll do that with you next week on this same segment.
Let's do it. You guys have a great night, and a happy 4th of July. Be